I've always been fascinated by the porch lights and the lights that we put around in the evenings when we sit out to enjoy the coolness that comes, the sun having departed, the stars and the moon beginning to shine. Those lights are wonderful as long as they're yellow. And if they're not yellow, we have more friends and visitors than there are people in our community. They buzz, they fly around, they bat themselves against that light, trying to get inside the glass to be a part of that light. Moths, mosquitoes, they're welcome to fly around the light as long as they want. Don't come near me. All kinds of insects are attracted to light. We are attracted to light ourselves, but at the same time, we prefer not to be anywhere near the light, because the light keeps us from doing what we'd like to do. It reveals what we're doing to others, and sometimes we don't want others to see what we're doing. William Shakespeare, many years ago, wrote something that came to mind as I was going over what I'm saying. And I said, there it is. It sets the tone. He said, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. He acts, his acts being 7 ages. Shakespeare knew his scriptures. We are promised 7 decades, 7 ages, 7 different kinds of action going on the stage of our life. Some of us get 8 and 9. Others don't get as many. But we have a life, and we have a part to play. All of us are constantly searching for something. We are searching for the source of truth and meaning of life. Back when I was young, the kids in the 60s were going out to find themselves. I didn't know they were lost. But they're going out to find themselves. And they're still going out to find themselves. People will take off from university and go travel the world. They're out to see what there is to do. Young people today have more difficulty with education than many of us had. We had choice A or choice B. Either you took the advanced course in high school or you took the general course in high school, or some were selected to go into the special ed section, the business courses. 2 years and then you went out and got a job as a clerk in an office somewhere. General students, well, they might make it to a trade or maybe into the low-end management if they were very good at what they were doing. The A-levels, they always became the important people, the doctors, the lawyers, the judges, the politicians. Or was that somebody from some other planet became a politician? I can't recall. But we were all looking for something. We want something from life, and we don't know what it is. We go looking. Now, who was the writer of Ecclesiastes? It's not clearly understood just who he was. The general feeling of the scholars is that it was most likely Solomon. Solomon was one of the wisest men in Bible times. And the word Ecclesiastes, when you go back to search its source and root meaning, is generally rendered as preacher in English. He was a preacher. He was a disseminator of thoughts and ideas, interpretations. The book of Ecclesiastes contains the reflections and the experiences of a philosopher whose whole life was in conflict over the problems of life. His mind could not get over all the conflicts that he came across. The limited outline of Solomon's life and the experiences of this philosopher are much the same, and thereby leading to the thought that he most likely wrote this book. So what did he have to say? We read the opening little bit of the book, and it sounds like he's very disillusioned with life. It doesn't matter what it is. It's not right. It's not laughter. It's not joy. It's not money. I don't know what it is, but it's not any of these things that we take and want. The only thing he can come up with is that the carnal pleasures of life are the only thing that has any sense of even beginning to make happiness and joy begin to sound right. The theme reoccurs throughout the book many, many times and suggests that the writer is struggling with the thought, while at the same time realizing that the carnal pleasures of life are not the way we're supposed to be going. And so he's uttering profound truths about God. So he sets himself up in another dilemma. This is what I reason from a human point of view is the way we should be going, but that part of me that I don't understand is telling me that no, it's God that we need to be looking for. So what is there in this passage from Ecclesiastes? We have to go to our own age and a little before. Back when I was young, and many of us were young, we were living in what they call the modern age. By the time I got to Knox College, they were talking about the postmodern age. Modern age is over, we're now in the postmodern age, that which comes after what was modern. I was happy with the modern age, it's wonderful. But this is postmodern, it's after modern. Modernism had lost its edge. As the writer of Ecclesiastes says, it's become meaningless. Jeez. I have grown and increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ruled over Jerusalem before me. I have experienced much of wisdom and knowledge. I've got it all, but it's meaningless. Having applied himself to all these things, understanding wisdom, the madness and folly of life, it's all folly. It's all madness. He too is chasing after the wind, and it's all meaningless. And so he comes to the conclusion for which wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. The more knowledge you have, the more grief you have. The more wisdom you have, the more you know you don't know. Every time science finds something new, it has 10 more questions to answer. didn't know as much as I thought it did. The modern age, with its science, its power of reason, and the worth of the individual, has come together to create what historians now call the Enlightenment. The lights came on. The number of inventions and refinements of those inventions in the last 60 years has outstripped everything that's come before it. And there's nothing really new, it's just a refinement of what we already have. They aren't finding much new, they're just making what we have better. The powerful world-changing assumptions have, for most part, proven to be false. It's like the dam built to hold back a river. At some point, it's going to prove to be inadequate when that flood of the millennium comes along and the dam isn't strong enough or big enough to hold the water back and it bursts. Or if the dam does hold, modern engineers will do what they did down that flows through Nashville. They opened the dam because if they didn't, it would break and cause more devastation than it was going to cause. And so Nashville was flooded. Musicians lost priceless musical instruments stored in basements in the center of the business district. The water came in and filled it above the street level, and their instruments were lost. The Grand Ole Opry, well, they've had to move back to the Ryman Auditorium because there was 4 feet of water on the stage. They lost all their equipment and they had to rebuild it. But that was dumb to say, because if they hadn't, a lot more people would have lost their homes down the river. Think about life. We trust science and technology to have the answers to everything we need. We've been pretty good at reducing the crime rate in the area in the last few years, except this year. We've discovered that last year it went up quite a bit. Crime, poverty, racism, pollution, war have not been fixed. They're as healthy as ever, breaking out all over the place like hives. We find ourselves unable to comfort ourselves and keep the reality of life at bay with our indulgence in worldly things. Art, agriculture, great possessions do not take away the reality that faces us at every turn. Money will not buy happiness. I once heard the story of a man who won $100 in, you know, those little scratch tickets. You pay 50 cents for maybe $1, scratching you win money. He won $100. And his friend asked him, well, how much did you spend to win $100? $200. Another guy, gee, I won $300. Well, how much did you spend to win $400? He thought he was happy, but he's already behind. We're like that, you know, we think we're happy, but we're not. We're really miserable. Many other examples of what we try and do to get away from the realities of life. And we all know that they don't work. So what will work? As we operate now in what they call the postmodern world, what works? Modern age hasn't worked. What's going to work in the postmodern age? If all the pleasures of life, all the money we can amass, all the art and other possessions that we can gather, and all the food we can store up for a rainy day do not get us happiness and fulfill us and satisfy whatever it is we're seeking, then what does fill that gap? In other words, the play is not working. It needs to be changed. You go and see a play. That play has been around for 50 years. It's been done by other actors on other stages, but it's still the same play. The same words, the same actions, the same conclusion. Over and over again. What did Jesus have to say in the 10th chapter of John? You've lived in a world filled with promises that have not been kept. Basically, is what he was saying. How often have we heard the words, trust me, only to find that our trust in the one speaking the words cannot be trusted? I remember a commercial on television with the car salesman in the flashy jacket. Trust me. Just trust me, he'd say. And right off the bat, you knew, don't trust the guy. People who have trusted the people from whom they are buying concert tickets at an inflated price because they really want to go to the concert, get there and find that the ticket they have is worthless. They may have paid twice the going rate for the ticket, but it's worthless. All the teachers, insurrectionists, revolutionaries, Pharisees, scribes, and they all promised liberation and abundance. What you've gotten is disappointment and destruction and death. Are the things Jesus is telling those who are listening to him? Those are the things. All that has been promised you before has not come true. And he goes on to say something very simple and very direct. I have come to give you life to the full. Now there's another promise. But is it dependable? Is it true? Can it be? But it isn't the same as the other promises. Listen clearly. I have come to give you life to the full. It's deeper and more dependable than the broken promises of work or pleasure or power, because we all know that these things are only for a time. So what is life to the full with Jesus? Jesus promises us something that is not rooted in this world. In this world, things change, life shifts, nothing lasts. Newfoundland was starving for work. Nobody had work. They couldn't find work. They had some oil out in the sea, but it was not being looked at in the same way as the West was. The West was crying for people to work. Everybody went from Newfoundland west. It took a fire to shut the industry down. Everybody's out of work and they probably won't all get back to work. So where are they going? They're going back home. God didn't design you and I to run in any of the external realities around us. He has designed us to run on Himself, His grace, and our relationship with Him. Life isn't about amassing money, food, housing, and all the other extras of life. Life is about relating to your neighbor, about making certain that you and your neighbor are secure. Secure in the knowledge that you know where you are headed. And you're not headed to the supermarket, you're headed for your heavenly home. I put it to you that there are those with a lot less than you and I have who are happier than we are because they know their destination is to be in the house of God their Father. And that's all that matters to them. If they don't have all the fancy stuff in life, they'll get along without it. But they have the knowledge that they are going to heaven. Life has meaning and freedom and joy when it is lived in the knowledge that Christ has died for your sins, and that His Father has raised Him, and He sits beside His Father and intercedes on our behalf. And He dwells with you. You dwell with Him and with His Father. And so, life that is meaningless in all these things that we think have meaning becomes meaningful in the knowledge